Hi, Paul.
Hello.
So, so I'm recording this,
hmm
as you know, and I know you've had a bit of a tough week.
hmm
So I'm recording this.
Lockdown.
I don't know all the details yet, but I know you've had a tough week, and I thought let's record it. Let's see what happens.
hmm
And if you don't want this to ever see the day of light, we'll hit delete.
Okay. Sounds
Okay.
sounds like a plan.
Yeah. But basically, just forget that we're recording it because
Yeah.
we're in the pub. We're in a pub with a glass of water.
Yeah.
Uh, mate,
Yeah.
happening.
Um. Yeah. No. It's been a long lockdown, as it is for most people. And obviously, I live on my own, so it's been for somebody who finds it tough to emotionally regulate, find it tough with their own internal narrative and their own thoughts. It's been literally the worst nightmare. And just so I know there's a lot of people out there, and I'm by no means kind of saying that my issues and my situation is by no means in isolation and in anything unique, but it's been both a good thing and a bad thing in some ways. It's forced me um, to have a lot of soul searching and what I want to do in relation to career advancement, life, um, and all the things that essentially have made me strive and actually make me take stock. And I think there's a lot of people I've ended up talking to that have mirrored the same thing, is that it's forced you to slow down, and it's forced you to reflect on actually, okay, what does actually make me happy, and what does actually
What matters?
well, yeah, exactly what matters. So um I think I've become more me in a lot of ways, through there's two parts of me that I've discovered over quite an interesting journey, and most of this started obviously when I was running Youngo last year, the last 2 years.
Which is how, well, yeah, it's how we initially met, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
that's how we initially met.
Yeah.
Well, you and I met literally just doing the first couple of weeks of me running Youngo.
Yeah, I remember I first saw you at Neil Foley's Business Growth Club.
Yes. Yeah.
You spoke about cybersecurity and how you just started up, and
Yeah.
I straight away went, oh, I love this guy. He's amazing, and you are. And then you went and did some incredible. Well, you went and did about 10,000 things at once.
All of the things. Yeah.
All of the things.
All of the things. Whether that
And
was the military, PhD, all these sorts of things, etc. Yeah. It
yeah,
was.
and then I remember you being. See, I always thought that you were doing exceptionally well. I always did, and I know that that's not your opinion, but I'm going to tell you your opinion is bullshit right now.
I didn't do very well at business. I kind of say I
but,
didn't do very well at business.
but Paul, who does? Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm always fucking broke. Um, yeah, I'm always fucking broke. I have been for years. I didn't need cancer to be broke all the time. That was like an added. Like, thankfully now I have an excuse. But I think the reality is that when most people go it alone,
Yeah.
the first time, most people fail, you know. And actually,
Yeah.
I don't think you did, because you then got an amazing offer
Mm.
and then continued down that route. And most of us don't get amazing offers.
Yeah.
So you must have been doing something right.
The last, and I think in some ways, job wise and career wise and things like that, I've always struggled with direction. I've always struggled with as I said, there's two major parts of me. There's and as you know, the last 2 years and through our conversations, it's been more of a personal journey than it has been anything else, because And I know I'm going quite deep quite quickly, but the fact that I used to be a young carer, and I used to look after my mum for pretty much my entire life until she passed away when I was 28. And there's a lot of who you are as a person that gets built upon as a carer and young carers. Is that there's a lot of there's an awful lot more baggage in Heathrow Airport that I carry around with me as a result of this. There's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of shame, there's an awful lot of what's the word, there's a lot of when you get used to having essentially a semi-perpetual sense of doom about anything that you ever want to achieve, because it would require your closest loved one to essentially be out of the picture for you to achieve anything you want to achieve. It's a very difficult thing for a teenager, a young man to be able to, or a young anybody to come to terms with. So in a lot of ways I developed these two sides. And one side was the actor, which I've come to call it, is the actor who is very good on stage, is very good at saying how good he's doing, and the mask he puts on for the benefit of other people. And it's interesting because the way that comes from is very often is a subject of a carer, is that carers very often, and we don't realize we do it with carers and individuals, is because the only way we end up getting validation is through people going, aren't you such a good person? Oh, you're fantastic. Wow, you're really good what you do for your mum. And since I was little, the constant reinforcement of somebody saying, oh, you've done so well, and you're so good with your mum, and it also makes you into this sort of martyr, is that the only you then become this overinflated sense of you only get validation if you're productive, you only get validation if you're good at your job, and everybody has an overinflated sense of that. But for me it was very much, if I'm not that, then I am worthless. And what triggered me for that was, again, when I was running my own company, I didn't understand the concept of failure. I didn't understand the concept that I may not make it. I took it that I wasn't succeeding, therefore I am worthless. Because since my mum died, it's been 5 years now, and again, I'm still struggling with a lot of the identity missing.
Can I just say, you say it's been 5 years now, it's only been 5 years.
Exactly. It's only been 5 years. And if anybody else said that to me and I said, oh, well, by 5 years, or by X amount of years, you should have gotten over it, or you should be better, etc., or any sort of trauma, and you would have immediately go back to it and say, not being funny, but that's the expectation that you set to yourself, not anybody else. There's no, well, according to the rule book, you should have gotten over it by now, or whatever it is. But that's the thing, is I've only just started finding out who I am. And it sounds a bit airy-fairy in some ways, but when your entire identity is essentially linked to the fact that you look after somebody else, or you in that, and don't get me wrong, I loved my mum more than anything, but she was manipulative as hell. And the multiple sclerosis, regardless of that, she was incredibly manipulative. She did a lot out of fear. She had a massive fear of abandonment. She was very difficult to deal with, and in some ways, actually, she made the situation worse, because she essentially, out of her insecurities and her issues, she created a prison for me. And aside from the context, she created a prison for me that conditioned me over years and years and years, and all sorts of things like that. So coming out of that has been a journey. Realizing that I don't necessarily connect with people that easily, because they connect with the actor who believes and does everything based upon the expectations of others people rather than what I want to do. Every decision, like the reason why, especially when during Youngo, and especially what I've pretty much done every decision since my mum passed, was I need to collect accolades. I think I need to do a PhD. I really want to do a PhD. I really want to go into the army and be a consultant for the army and do all these things. And also I want to run my own company, and I want to do this, and realizing it that very deep down, every single decision was made based upon what other people would expect, would perceive, and how good I would look.
I mean, I can relate, I think, not to the mum thing, obviously.
No, but it's amazing how many things come to, like, regardless of backgrounds, funnel into these kind of different elements.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised, because it's been a really weird experience for me now listening to you, because I've been pretty much saying the exact same thing that you just said to my therapist every Thursday. So it's like
every Thursday as well. So yeah.
And so yeah, I get it. And then at the same time, I'm sort of sitting here and going like, I wonder if everybody else is sort of, well, not everybody, because actually, right, this might be a bit twisted. So I have a gratitude diary because, positive mental health framing and that. And today I wrote down that I am grateful for all the shit that happened, because in a weird sense, I'm actually grateful that I've got to this point where I can get this realization of everything that you just said, of the understanding, and I've suddenly gone, that's why I react in that way, because I've been programmed to believe this, and for me this is a belief, and then because what life must it be like if you are a person that cannot reflect, be self-aware, or even self-critical, even though it's not a great thing to be self-critical all the time, but it does actually, help us in a sense. And then I was sort of thinking, I was like, actually, I'm really glad I'm so screwed up.
I have moments where, God, wouldn't it be nice if I wasn't so self-analytical and wasn't so hell-bent on destroying myself from within? Because my self-narrative and self-talk is brutal, and a lot of, like, most people's are, and it's the messages in which I constantly reevaluate to myself, like even looking back on previous versions of myself, and I go, God, wasn't he confident? And it's almost like this kind of detachment that I look at and go, Jesus, I never would have thought of that. I never would have done that. I feel less confident now. But then because it's that drip feeding of your own narrative, but exactly as you said, is you're kind of grateful for the shit, because you're kind of grateful for the fact that, even my therapist says to me at the moment, is that what you're going through is the most valuable thing that you could ever go through. Because it's insane.
My biggest learning, and I really like, because back to reality here, I really fucking hate it. Like, who's come up with this of, you need to feel the pain, you need to be comfortable feeling uncomfortable, and actually it's 100% true, because that's the moments that you progress the most as a human being. But fucking hell, why do you have to go through this shit to get to the end?
This is bollocks. What's going on? It is.
But it's so true. And actually, I don't know, I think realizing it does make it a bit easier.
Yeah. Because
you can reassure yourself going, it's okay, because that's one thing, everything passes. Everything changes all the time. Nothing stays the same. So if it's really shit now, there's a really good chance that it won't be for much longer. So that's always a silver lining. But I forgot what I was meant to say. But another thought I had when you said about the mask. Now, I don't know if you'll find this interesting or not, but when I said I heard you speak, and I was like, I love that. What I think what made people, and I'd say people because I know I'm not the only one, take to you isn't the mask and the bravado. It's because when you speak, you now and again drop that mask. You drop it and you don't know it. And we see you. We see you so clear.
Yeah.
And that's why we love you. And that's why we go, he has something interesting to say.
It's not,
so we know that.
I've always said, like, you know me, I love public speaking. I love being on stage. I love doing that. And always everybody's said to me, it's like, God, it's like how, like, it's incredible what you do. And to be fair, I could be standing up and talking about underwater basket weaving and I'd still be in my element. Cyber and my specialism sort of thing, it was an avenue. It became an avenue for me to do that. I've always loved it for as long as I can remember. And cyber and security when I was in the police was very much an avenue to go and do that. And I felt like it was a rewarding job, and it was rewarding for me to go out and help people as much as I possibly could. And in some ways it was a very difficult transition to go into Youngo, because it was I want to go out and help people, but I also need to eat. So I need these people to see the value in what I'm trying to give, and consultancy or training or whichever, etc. But for me, sales, and it was a very, very difficult task to learn, because for me it was quite mercantile, and all I want to do was this kind of almost this altruistic variation, like, yes, but that doesn't necessarily make you money. And the amount of stuff that I would do, I'll do for free, and I'll do for free. I'm like, that's not necessarily very good business sense.
Paul, you know what happened to me in April? I was on the phone with my accountant, and I kid you not, my accountant said to me, well, Barbara, you are actually going to have to make money at some point again. You are nice and all, but it's not going to feed you.
Actually got to make money. Yeah.
And he said, you are going to have to start charging, like, because we were talking about my day rate, and he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, no.
Where's the rest of it? Yeah.
I know, but yeah, I don't know if I've been incredibly lucky, because I actually said to Neil Foley the other day, I said, complete honesty. Oh no, it wasn't Neil Foley, it was Alex from Barclays. I said to him, complete honesty, if I didn't get sick, Breed Events would be dead and buried, because I would have gone bust by now. But the fact that I got sick right at the right moment, then went on benefits, and basically the money's been just sort of keeping the company going. And then obviously having done a bit of growing up in between as well, and it has been a bit of a lifesaver. And I'm currently re-engaging.
I love your spin on it. I forgive me to being really blunt, associate getting cancer to being a lifesaver. That's quite the bridge. Come on. Wow. Fair play though.
Good spin, eh? I mean, obviously,
it's quite the bridge. Fair play.
Obviously, I wouldn't recommend it, because
yeah, be fine. Get cancer. I'll sort you out right out. Yeah, be fine. Because I love that. I love the segue into that. That was very good.
Yeah, I didn't plan that, by the way.
No. I know you didn't. I
was just talking unfiltered, and that's what happens. But oh god, don't know what now. What I'm meaning to say, I think if life didn't intervene in a very cruel way, Breed Events would be dead by now. And I don't know if I would have been able to recover from that. like pride wise, you know, personal, like,
Yeah.
ooh. And the whole concept of actually failing being a good thing, you know, because let's be honest, we say failing and it's a really horrible word. All we're doing is learning.
Yeah, usually.
I sort of, I see, I just don't know. I just see things differently. I don't even quite know what happened. Maybe when they put me under, they really whacked me over the head really heavily, and everything's just gone back into place. I don't know, but I've still not solved the fix of how am I actually going to pay the bills.
Yeah.
So I'll let you know when I figured it out.
Yeah, let me know. That's why I do enjoy being back on a salary, I've got to say.
Yeah. So, we've just talked about something off the record, and you're not going to know what it's about. And sorry, just have to deal with it. But Paul, it's Friday afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
and we've had a heart to heart, which we always do.
We do every time.
Yeah.
It's like there's no pleasantries. It's like, hey, how are you? You're all right. Like, no, straight in.
Tell me your problems. Tell me your problems now.
Cancer, lifesaver, be fine. Yeah.
So, as you can see, I've been working on my camera angles a lot. Hey, let me tell you what I've been up to. I've read this book.
Okay. Yes.
Yes. You familiar?
Mm-hmm. I haven't read it personally, but yes, I'm familiar.
We talked a lot about it, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's a bit yeah, so I've been oh god, yeah, I'm gonna show you my days.
Mm-hmm.
So every Sunday I've been doing my food plan and my to-do list, and then every day I rewrite it because I changed my mind a lot.
Nice.
And I've been doing around 30 minutes of exercise every day. I've lost half a stone.
Wow, bloody hell, Christ.
Yeah, during lockdown as well.
Very nicely done.
So I've been planning my food. I've been reading 10 pages of a book every day, which for someone who hates reading has been quite a change. And actually, I really don't tell my mother, but I'm really enjoying it. And I swear the only reason why I used to hate reading is because my mum used to try and force Harry Potter on me, and I just did not want to know. I wanted to watch Dawson's Creek on TV. So yeah, I had 33 years of not knowing what I was missing out on. So yeah.
To be fair, only until recently, I've never really been a massive reader, because I've always had to have, was always so wired that I need to be stimulated at all possible moments in time. So if it was sat down in more or less silence and reading a book, was way too slow paced for the caffeinated magpie that I normally am.
Yeah.
But again, it actually, to be fair, like Audible, listening to a lot more, etc., in the car, has actually led me to read more books.
Hey, so that's how I got it. So last year I got Audible and I started listening to books and going, oh, this is quite good. And then Slight Edge is not available on Audible, so I have to actually read it. And then I was like, oh, this is actually all right. But I've noticed with Audible, I've now got myself in a tiz, right? So basically, everything I read is self-development or events world or like really dull stuff, but I find it really interesting. And I've come to the conclusion that when I listen on Audible, I mean, it's entertaining, but it doesn't penetrate.
It's almost the kind of that actually, but with books, you tend to do it, and it's like you tend to actually. I'm going to reread that point because that's quite significant to me.
Yeah.
Or highlight it. Yes.
Yeah. So So basically, I'm changing my strategy. So I'm still going to continue finish the Audible books that I've already purchased because that would be a waste. But there's two on there that I really liked. I've now ordered them as a hard copy because I feel like I actually want to learn this. So I feel like I need to read it. So actually, actual consuming. And I've changed what I have on Audible more to with Black Lives Matters and everything. I've just got how to be an anti-racist, and more sort of on the still educational, so not fiction, but not so much
Not
heavy
so much that actually
psychology.
you want to develop it.
Yeah, more of an education in terms of seeing different viewpoints, sort of thing. Yeah, and with the reading, um, I've started the draft, and the first draft is lousy. But I thought, well, what I really should do is, like, a couple of weeks after I finish the book, I should just write a little, like, LinkedIn blog post, the proper formatted ones, and call it reflections, and actually, like, write down what I remember from the book, like, as a summary, and then write down what I've learned, what insights I had about myself whilst reading the book, and then how I've applied it, because I thought that's the ultimate way of, like, actively learning from a book without
Yeah.
forking out loads of money on a course or something.
It's almost your own little cliff notes, essentially, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Gosh. Yeah,
But
but the only problem is, well, again, this is a belief that I've bestowed on myself, that I'm a crap writer, which most of the time is sort of true, but I get away with it. But yeah, and I've got, yeah, I need to rewrite it, basically. But again, good way to practice, because
yeah,
and publishing it, making myself accountable that I actually do it. So
no, makes sense. Well, it's interesting because, again, like these kind of beliefs you end up having about yourself is that I know that I always think that I'm terrible at writing, or I'm a terrible procrastinator, which I am the worst procrastinator. I'm awful. I get to the point where I'm entirely stagnant and I can't do it. And as soon as I let go of that belief, then I end up kind of actually being relatively productive. But again, is it all these sorts of things and these kind of beliefs that you end up kind of debilitating yourself? Is that actually all of a sudden it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in the first place? Because
and that's one of the books that I've ordered, that I've listened to, called the Happiness Advantage.
okay.
It's quite a well-known. So it's based some sort of professor from Harvard, psychology, and it's basically positive psychology. But, and this is a big but, it's not like, think positive and big smile and everything's great. Not at all. Like, really far removed from that. But it does speak to how, and you know this, success doesn't breed happiness.
No.
But happiness most definitely breeds success. And so it looks at proactive ways of stimulating your brain to get into a positive mindset, even though you might not, and by that we don't mean happy fairies and everything, just to have
It's like I'm reading a book on the side, and it's from 1986, and I don't know where it is. It's somewhere. It's probably downstairs. But it's essentially what to say when you talk to yourself. And it's a proper 1980s book, like the longest massive title. It's nothing catchy. My dad sent it to me, and it was like 40p from a jumble sale somewhere, etc. like that. But it's interesting because going through it, my perception of it, and it's talking about the self-help world, and it's talking about that it all boils down to guiding yourself in the way you talk to yourself. So essentially all of it, whether it's interesting because it lists all the positive mantras and all these mantras and all these little things like journaling, meditation, getting up early, making your bed, because that's obviously makes success. Obviously I'll never be successful because I'm rubbish at that, but the whole principle around this is it goes through this massive list, and I was like, God, this is 34 years ago, And I look at it and go, it's not changed. The self-help industry has not changed. It's just repackaged, rebranded, being more viral, and all these sorts of things, and changed in no way. And it's a very short, small book, etc. And it just talks about, and it's very, to be fair, it is very Americanized as well. However, the tactics in it is actually quite interesting, because it all boils down to how you talk to yourself. And it's looking at it and thinking, okay, well, as like what I was talking about before, in some elements that I've had probably depression in various levels for about 9 or 10 years, and it's gone up and down, and it's gone through cycles, etc. like that. And because of my mum's condition, and because of the situation in relation to looking after mum, is that I have no concept of what it is to be happy, and most people don't. Most people, like, how do you become happy? And was like, well, actually, I've for forever, because I hung on to hope, thinking my career, if I was more successful in my career and I pushed myself harder in my career, then I'd somehow break through that barrier and be able to support mum in a way that didn't actually mean that I was a prisoner of my own sort of context. I don't know, it was a sense of doom in a lot of ways, but actually in reality was the situation. But is that the realization that we all of us spend an awful lot more time striving for something else other than actually being in the moment. And everybody says that, and so often that we talk about being in the moment, but actually, like, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, how do you draw happiness for something when you've been conditioned that happiness is only as a subsequent result from material gains, career, job, life, family, children, blah, blah. And it's very difficult to be happy with what you have. I find it.
However, no, I do agree with you, but my experience last year has left me in a slightly different place,
Of course.
and I'm going to let you in on something.
I'm intrigued.
So being ill meant that I had this incredible experience of all my senses being switched on, everything, and of, you know, and I actually think that's what people mean when they say in the moment. And let's be honest, 99% of people who say live in the moment don't actually know what they're on about. But I can vividly remember how it felt like to sit next to my hospital bed in this weird chair and have the sun come in through the window and touch my hand. And I could vividly remember the feeling of the sunlight, the warmth. I can vividly remember smells, or I can remember when we left the hospital and the breeze and the fresh air, you know, because hospitals fucking stink. So like that was amazing. I remember having my first bath and disintegrating into tears, not because I was sad, but because it was just so beautiful to have a bath, and every little thing about me tingled, and it was just amazing. And I could go on, you know, the list is really long, from first footballing experience to first time sharing a bed with Nick again, to food. You know, I was tube fed for a really long time, so to actually getting pleasure from food, especially when you can move on from the soft food to the less soft food to the less soft food. So yeah, all these little steps. And then obviously I got quite a bit better, and then I remember going to we went to see Muse in London, and I was just like the whole experience, like I was every little tingle of my spine. I was so there in that moment during that concert, and I felt every bass vibrating through me, and it was just amazing. And you know, you go through every day like that, and it's amazing, but it's fucking exhausting.
Yeah.
And you know what? There is too much of a good thing. And yeah, and I got to a point where I'm like, I honestly got to a point where I was like, you know what? This whole thing about living in the moment is massively overrated. Because what they don't tell you is that it sucks the life out of you. It doesn't invigorate you, because you've just given everything you have. So actually, I wouldn't recommend to live in the moment at all times, because you are not going to get the type of fulfillment that you look for in life.
No.
But I definitely would say that there are qualities about quietening the mind.
Yeah.
Being able to have, I mean, my head talks to me all the time. So being able to shut off that fucking Barbara whining about for 30 seconds is a relief, you know? Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, so that would be my explanation.
Because again, I guess that perception switched when, forgive me from looking into it, because if you can imagine your life sort of as this kind of consistent stream, is that we don't think we're going to essentially nothing's going to happen to us, so we're constantly aiming for and striving for the next step, and most of us change the goalposts as soon as we get to the goalpost. So when you get to that goalpost, very often none of us actually take the moment to celebrate getting to that goal. We immediately just move it further.
Yeah.
But I guess when you all of a sudden with that information, you end up getting the goalposts taken away. And it's almost that real kind of guillotine moment where it's actually, you know what, all I have is the moment, and there's the potential that all I have is the moment.
And that's really true. So there's two things that I want to try and describe. The first thing was that what really surprised me is how well I took the news that I might be dead in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, I think most of us were. It's like, okay.
Yeah. But it fills me with loads of comfort, because I genuinely was like, yeah, I think I'm all right with that, because yeah, there's, you know, stuff that I really would have wanted done.
Yeah.
But I was a bit like, I feel like I've had a pretty good ride. You know, I've partied hard. I've had my failures and successes, and I felt that I have arrived as a version of me in terms of being able to mature. I've been left with an end product that I was like happy to see it out with. You know, I was like, well, if this is it, then I think I'm all right. You know, I don't feel like I've left anything undone in that sort of sense, even though there's loads of stuff I wanted to do. But you know, I didn't have any. Well, I definitely have regrets. Don't get me wrong. There's lots of ex-boyfriends that I definitely regret.
Oh, we've all got those. We've all got those.
And other things. But actually, I felt all right. I was okay with it. And that really surprised me, because I'm someone, like you said, my goalposts constantly go. Yeah. And the other thing I was going to say was, I'm in a really weird place at the moment. Because very recently, I've come to realise, I'm still here. Where's the next goalpost? Shit. I go,
I haven't made the time to make new goalposts. So
I know.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad. So at the beginning of lockdown, I had a couple of conversations with people, and they're like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I was like, and a lot of people asked me, "What are you doing?" And I was just like, I don't know. I need to take a bit of time to figure out what it is I want to do.
Oh, yeah.
Because I sort of had an idea, but I needed to make sure that I don't know. I sort of I knew that what I wanted in December 2018 wasn't the same as what I wanted now, but I knew there were similarities. You know, I wasn't going to change completely, but I needed to refine, and I really needed to pick a really clear direction. And at the beginning, I was getting a bit annoyed because I couldn't figure it out. And then I just relaxed about it and thought, oh, it'll come to me. And then it did, really randomly. And at the moment, I think Slight Edge has helped me with that. At the moment, I have, I don't know if I would call it a goalpost, but I have a vision. And I feel confident enough to follow that direction. But the vision of what I am sort of envisaging at the moment, I don't think that's the overall goal, but I think that that direction will lead me on to even something way more exciting that I can't even imagine at the moment. And that excites me. That really fucking excites me. And the Good Eggs is one part of that. And I'm doing a uni course in a couple of weeks for event design, which is, you know, I've been preaching on for many years. Finally found something who teaches it. So I'm going to home in on my skills, and I love events. You know, I live and breathe it. I love to create stuff and make it happen and bring people together. So it seems a bit of a waste to just throw that away and pursue something else. But I think my fundamentals of why I love it has changed.
I can really resonate with that, because I did ask myself the question when I talk about cybersecurity and cybercrime and things like that, is that my goals have changed over the years, and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to focus on, etc. But I've always had this kind of aim in the future, and all of a sudden this lockdown and this kind of sort of pseudo crossroads has really kind of thrown up in my head, it was a big barrier. It was a barrier that was like, well, actually, you don't really know where you want to go. Not really, not truly. Like, what is it that makes you happy? And it's like, is it actually making you happy? Or was cybersecurity, like, because in the police, when I did the 2 years in cybercrime, that was a lovely job. It was wonderful. I'd go around to businesses and organizations and help with the likes of youth offending, go on the BBC and do all these sorts of things around child protection, safeguarding, all this sorts of thing. There was a real purpose behind the role, behind the unit that we were working for.
There's the word.
And that's the thing, is that ever since I left the police, I haven't had a purpose. And it's almost that I need to work for and be in a situation where I understand and have a clear purpose of that. It's not just making money. It's not just making money for the sake of making money, because I'm like, well, money is a choice multiplier, and it's a result, and it's lovely. But and this is it, is that like when I was working for my company, again, my purpose that I'd given myself, and like work with Aaron and Kelly from All This Flux and graphic language and stuff like that. So actually, I really was confident. I knew what my purpose was, but that wasn't enough to make money. So I've almost completely turned it on its head, and it's like, Paul, you don't have to do cybersecurity in the future. You don't have to do these things. Yes, cybersecurity was an avenue for you to go out on stage and do what you love doing and help people with whatever it was. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the career that you choose for the rest of your existence. And I found that really difficult to contemplate, and found it really difficult because there's this weird aspect around momentum. I'll lose the momentum. And again, it's an expectation that I have created in my head based on no evidence whatsoever. But it's around career. Like when I started Youngo and I wasn't doing very well, and yes, okay, personal journey, and if you look back on it in hindsight, absolutely, it was the best thing for me because it forced me to look inside.
Still cheaper than a university degree, and you probably learnt a lot more.
Hugely, massively. So in that way, it was a massive success. However, in my head, I'd lost momentum. I'd lost where I wanted to go because I wanted to constantly be better, be better, be better, be more, be more, be more, get there. And the problem is that for an awful long time, and again, something that lockdown has shown me as well, is I carry an awful lot of guilt and shame. And I almost carry it almost permanently, like in the kind of solar plexus area, is that because of living in sort of pretty much constant stress for most of my life in various guises because of mum's condition and stuff like that, is you end up seeing threat everywhere.
Mm.
You see anxiety in everything, and that's why again, as a survival mechanism, the actor was created and that mask was created to defend against that, because that was my defense. And it's almost now that I'm kind of almost bringing these multiple parts together to actually find, oh, okay, well, actually who I am and my identity that's come somewhere in between.
Yeah. I mean, it's not one or the other.
No,
There's,
I am all of those things
yeah.
in reality. But it's just fascinating because again, is that all these things that we set for ourselves and these inner thoughts. It's like the biggest one I've really struggled with is that momentum, is that losing momentum and not being as successful as I should have been. How who set that bench line? Like, you did at some point. And but if you'd gone back, like even from yourself, Barbara, if anybody watching this video as well, if you go back to talk to the individual that you were a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and you said what you've accomplished or what you've done or who you are as a person right now, I'm pretty sure they'd respond with quite positive feelings and positive results, going, oh, I turned into this.
Yeah.
But we forget that.
No, we do. And I have to say, that has been one of the key aspects that I've been trying to bring to most of the events that we've done, because I know that, do I know? I assume that 99% of all our members are guilty of that. We don't stop and go, I'm pretty awesome. We just don't do it because we go, oh, I should be doing this and I should be doing this and I should, oh, and we by doing that, I think we do ourselves a huge injustice, and actually, I think it costs us. I actually think it costs us on the bottom line. I think it costs us money and progression and all of that, because we are using up energy on shit that is just not useful,
Yeah.
And that's one thing. So I'm going to record myself a little message for future Barbara when she's, when at the moment I'm in quite a privileged position where I don't have to worry too much about money, she said, but very soon I will have to. And then, squeaky bum time. And I think the biggest shame that could happen to me is if I lose sight to why I am doing that. Because I think as soon as I misuse or abuse that very pure reason to why I'm doing it, I'm losing my authenticity. And when I lose that, people are going to stop showing up. And in events, it's ruthless. Yeah. Because you know exactly when something happens in an event, you know exactly if that decision has been made because of a sponsorship deal, because it's not in line with everything else. And I guess for me, that's the biggest challenge that I need to overcome, is that I need to have to find a balance where I can stick to my guns and be true to my beliefs and the values that I want to pursue with this project. without getting lured by the dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You either get lured by the dollar, or you end up getting, what I always refer to it as, is you get kind of taken away by your own current. It's almost that where you are at the moment, and at that crossroads, you're always like, this is what I value, this is what I believe, this is where I need to go. And so often, I'm massively guilty of it. I get carried away by my own emotions, my own reactions to things, my own negative disbelief, and I just get carried away from it. And it's almost, I'm never mindful enough to be able to go, no, come back here.
And actually, it's believing in your salt. And like, Barbara, you're going to listen back to this. Believe in your salt. Believe that there is a solution out there that is win-win. Well, actually, it's win-win-win-win-win. Because if you can get the right people to support this project, who fit in with everyone else, they are also going to get a return on what they invest in.
Yeah.
I'm 100% sure. So, yeah.
Both our future selves.
It takes balls, and I remember vividly so many times, like before this whole illness stuff, where I was really convicted about something. I was going in the right direction, and then I just dropped the balls. I just suddenly went, ah, when actually no, own the balls. I know we didn't have any metaphor, be metaphorical here, but
that's the tagline for this video. Own the balls. Own them. It's fine.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's so much fear, isn't it? There's so much fear around it that it's you end up dropping said balls because you're fearful of. You can't even put your finger on it most of the time. Of actually just saying, okay, well, what am I fearful of? I don't know. Like,
I'll tell you what gets me in a tizz in the most is that, and it's my own fault, because I know that all our members everyone in the Good Eggs is happy to pick up the phone if I call.
Yeah.
And if I just ask the question instead of like, I wonder if anyone's going to like this, if I actually find out if that's what you need, then surely that just negates that problem. And that's where, I've got the book here. This course that I'm doing,
That's a lot more interesting than my studying.
This is so amazing. It is no, seriously, I'm going to bore everyone to death with this methodology, but
it's a lot more interesting than this.
yeah. Sorry, mate. I'm not even going to pretend.
Not gonna lie. It's a lot more interesting than that. I shouldn't say that as a cybersecurity guy, but it is.
Hey, there's stuff about events which is really not glamorous, and it comes with the territory, all of it. Every job has got its admin.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, where are we time-wise? Hold on.
No idea.
Wow, this has been interesting. Completely off script, which I don't think is a bad thing.
There was a script?
Yeah, well, yeah, I normally have a set amount of questions. I know how we can tie this off.
That doesn't sound ominous at all.
No. So, at the end of each call, I have a jar of random questions.
Okay.
Yeah, and this jar used to be full, but there's only one left.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, I've got no choice then.
So I might as well serve it up to you. Okay. If you were given 1,000 acres of land, no idea how big that is, but I assume big, what would you do with it?
Dear God. That's an exceedingly good question.
Let's say money not being a problem, obviously.
Money's not an object.
You have a tap somewhere. And let's just say planning permission and stuff like that is also not an issue.
Okay, all right then. Um, do you want to know the first thing that comes to my mind?
Yes, yes, of course I do.
It's a spa. Build a new type of spa. Because I'm a massive one for pampering and massive one for skincare and all these sorts of things, etc. And it's interesting because obviously, you know me, I've been talking about digital well-being and tech retreats and things like that, and the way we manage ourselves and the way we compare ourselves and things like that. And it's almost a spa geared towards the element of, yes, you can go and relax, etc., like that, but it's also kind of an educational area as well. Is that you actually have, you go there to all that sort of healthcare aspects, etc., but it's also lifestyle changing and things like that. So it's a very obscure thing because that was literally made up of like the first thing that came to mind. But
there are spas like that in
yeah,
Switzerland, but they're very expensive.
of course,
So
of course they are.
expensive, so expensive, Swiss people can't even go. So
Amazing,
yeah.
amazing. Well, okay, let's say that it's a lot more affordable spa.
But can I just say, I didn't know about the spa thing.
What?
I didn't know you were a spa guy, but
Oh man, oh yeah, I love like if I've got a weekend free and I take the moment, like a lot before lockdown, obviously, like I I can't believe I admitted this, but I religious around my skincare and religious around, like, I've had lots of friends come to me for skincare advice, and they come around for pampering evenings and things like that, etc. And very often, whether it's been previous girlfriends or people or friends and like that, they've all gone, my God, I'm coming to your house because your products are amazing. Yeah, I'm a big one for like for instance, even just locally, just going out down to Aquasana or having Declior massages and all those sorts of things. I'm a massive one for that because it's one of the only things that has ever technically made me stop.
well, I'll let you in on a little secret. Well, not so secret, but every Christmas, Kate and I go to a spa as our like Christmas do because we didn't get one. But we missed this year, and then obviously this happened. So I'm pretty sure Kate wouldn't mind, but I'd love for you to come with us.
I do love a spa. That's literally as soon as it's open and it's the social distancing measures aren't there, etc. I am there because yeah, no, it's one of the only things that tends to make me properly stop and alleviates all the stress, all the guilt, all the stuff you carry with you all the time, and exactly like that. And it's funny, even talking to somebody, I was saying, well, I was on a similar conversation with somebody online, and we just quotes for someone from work, and I said, it's amazing how often your shoulders are literally pinned to your ears because of the amount of stress that you've got. And then all of a sudden, like, I've never thought that, and they just went I was like, okay, but there's exactly it, is I do love a good spa.
Yeah, no, love a good spa. We really want to go to the one in Newmarket.
Yes.
You know which one I mean, because there's a couple, but the really, 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 really nice one.
Is it, oh, what was it called? Begins with a B, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does look
Yeah,
nice.
it's on the way to the racetrack basically, so it's really posh, and yeah, it's on the list. The worst thing is, I know, like I'm a girl, obviously, but I don't understand like beauty stuff, and I spend because I've got acne and stuff. I spend loads of money on like Clinique and things like that, but I have no idea what it does. And now and again, I get free stuff shipped, and I'm literally like,
What is this witchcraft?
no idea what this is. Like, am I meant to put it on my face? Am I meant to eat it? Am I meant to? And another like a cancer thing, you get to go on look good, feel better. So it's basically a free pamper treatment, and you get like a goodie bag, and it's worth a load of money. It's really expensive, high-end stuff. And I just arrived and I was like, wow, I'm just going to colour in my face.
All of the product.
Thing. Yeah, and I just, yeah, and then some of it, I literally was like, what is this apparatus for? And it's not coming anywhere near me.
It's funny. I've always invested. I love it how I talk about it. That it's invested in good products and things like that. And the way I refer to it in my vernacular, etc., is quite funny. But like even just shampoo, like it's hilarious because I've got really nice shampoo and things like that, and conditioner and all these sorts of things, and nice kind of oils, etc. And then I realised I've just shaved my head. So now all of a sudden it doesn't really matter.
I'm so glad you said that, because I was just about to break some news to you, Paul. Go like,
by the way, well, actually, this is going to stay for a while. Actually, I actually really like it. It's like,
that's great.
yeah, I did it. I literally was because it was getting like wild and woolly, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm just going to do it like the COVID cut. But yeah, no, I think it's going to stay for a while. Actually, I quite like it. So
Just have to see that he can't hear me. The other half, his hair's starting to go like
mushroom.
yeah, it's sort of going all sorts of directions. And for a really long time, it looked absolutely fine, but it's just gone, I think, like a couple of days over now. But we're not far away, so I'm sort of like, just hold on, just hold on. But every day now he goes, is it all right? And I'm like, yeah, hon, it's fine.
It's fine.
Like, yeah, you look great. So yeah, I love him.
just don't mention the hair. Just don't talk about it.
Yeah, and I've noticed, because I haven't had my hair coloured in such a long time, I've actually gone grey at one point. And I'm blonde, so you can't really see it from a distance, but there's loads of greys come out, and I was like, oh God, 33 and grey, that's not right. So yeah, on that note,
I think
I'm going to stop the recording, but I'm going to say, Paul, thank you so much for your time. And obviously, it's yet to be decided if the public, well, I say the public, the other good eggs are ever going to see this or not. I will edit and put it up on a private link. You'll review it and let me know. So if anyone is watching this, way! I hope you really enjoyed this ride. I think it's been a ride. Would you agree?
It has. There's been it's gone from bit to bit, etc. So yeah, absolutely.
I think there's some corkers in there as well. I mean, the analogy of
bridging from cancer to life saving, and then own your balls.
Own your balls.
Not any other self-help in the world all boils down to owning your balls.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Paul. I'll see you with a cocktail soon.
See you later.